This is a picture of religious harmony. 500,000 people have come from all over Egypt to the country's most venerated monastery, Al-Maharik. They're celebrating with a 10-day feast to honour the Virgin Mary. This monastery is revered as the place where the Holy Family came to seek refuge from Herod, the Roman governor who wanted baby Jesus killed. The family stayed 6 months at this site, and it's believed Jesus Christ consecrated the first Christian altar here. The Coptic Christians of Egypt considered this place a second Jerusalem.
طبعا بيبقوا من الفرحة واللي زي بيزور الأماكن المقدسة اللي جاء فيها السيد المسيح قاعد فيها شخصيا.
مشاعرنا بنحس بالسعادة والأمان والمحبة لست العذراء ونخلص ست الباتعة لأن معجزاتها بتخلينا نيجي هنا ونزورها ما تصيرش فيها أي شيء.
Even Egypt's Muslims have joined the pilgrimage. In fact, a quarter of all visitors are Muslims. In the Quran, both Jesus and the Virgin Mary are sanctified.
التدين والاخاء بين المسيحيين والمسلمين يعني ده مشاعرنا موجوده طبعا لان ده مكان يعني مكان ديني ومكان مقدس.
For 3 hours every night, the monks of Al-Maharik chant their prayers in a ritual that's 1,000 years old. But now the monastery is at the centre of a controversy that is threatening Egypt's religious unity. A former monk, Abdel Sabdallah Gabriel, is accused of desecrating this holiest of places by having a string of sexual affairs with married women. And what has brought Egypt to the brink is the publication of the monk's deeds for all to see. By any tabloid standards, it was a big spread, splashed across 3 pages with headlines like "Monk turns monastery into whorehouse" and "Miracle Monk has sex with 5,000 women." The allegation struck at the core of Coptic Christianity, according to the church's spokesperson, Bishop Ioannis.
علشان هذه المرة المسيحيين يعني اتهموا ليس في أشخاصهم بل في كرامة مقدساتهم. زي ما أنا بقول دايما مثل في فرق بين إنك أنت تتهم شخص في شرفه فرق بين إنك أنت تتهم الشخص في شرفه وفي شرف مقدساته. دي كانت صعبة جدا جدا.
That incident is a very, very, very ugly incident. One of the worst we ever had in Egypt, maybe throughout its history, and definitely during our lives.
The reaction against the publication of the articles was swift and unprecedented. 10,000 Copts came out onto the streets of Cairo to vent their rage. Describing their holiest of places as a whorehouse was too much, and protesters believed the government was responsible for their humiliation because it allowed the publication of the article in the first place.
فاهم حضرتك الوضع اللي حصل دوت وان فعلا البنات بتوعنا اخواتنا زوجاتنا امهاتنا لما بيمشوا في الشارع المصري عامه الناس بتتكلم عليهم ممكن حد يغلط فيهم غلطه وصلت لدرجه اساءه يدفوا عليهم ينزلوهم من المواصلات العامه ينزلوا البنت من المواصلات العامه يقولوا لها يا زانيه وصلت لحاجات كتير قوي.
The anger was explosive. The demonstrations went on for 3 days and left 70 injured. The police were barely able to contain the protesters. Cairo is still tense. The unrest has highlighted years of frustration and discrimination against the Copts by Egyptian Muslims. It also unleashed anger about the Kosh massacre of January last year. when the Muslim killers of 20 Copts received light sentences. For many, the Al-Nabar article, published at the behest of editor Mahmoud Maran, was the last straw.
حدث في مهران لن يشفي هذا الأقباط ولكن اللي يشفي الأقباط أنهم يأخذوا حقوقهم بالكامل. جميع الشباب اللي جاي ما هوش قضية مهران اللي جابته، ده جابته قضية الكشح، جابته قضية الخنقة، قضية الزاوية، صنموا الأحداث، التحرشات اليومية المرتبطة بينا المتعلقة علينا. ما تاخدش بكلام يا جدعان، سيبوا واحد يتكلم يا جدعان. الذي ينهي الذي باختصار في عبارة واحدة الذي يشفي الأقباط حاليا هو حقهم في المواطنة الكاملة.
The protesters demanded action, and the state, realising the threat to national unity was real, gave it to them. The paper has been closed down and the editor has been put on trial, charged with undermining public order, inciting hatred and publishing pornographic pictures. The church does not deny the former monk committed the acts, but says they occurred only after he was expelled from the Coptic Church in 1996 for financial and disciplinary matters. The editor did get the facts wrong, and the state is likely to give Mr. Maran a lengthy jail sentence so that anger can be quelled and civil peace restored.
كل الناس اتحركت من قلبها إن فعلا يعني شجبت هذا الحدث جدا، ودي حاجة كويسة، دي حاجة احنا فرحانين ليها، ولكن برضو أرجع وأقول القضاء لا يكفينا الكلام ولكن الفعل.
نجي يا مخلص شعب المتواضع لا تتركنا للانقضاء ولا تسلمنا الى
The Copts have sought strength and solace from their patron Saint Mark, who was martyred for spreading the word of Jesus Christ to Egypt in the 1st century. This latest incident has inflamed tensions between the Copts, who number about 6 million, or 10% of the population, and the Muslim majority of 55 million. But the Copt story is not the usual tale of a persecuted minority. With the coming of Islam in the 7th century, many Copts converted, and the two religions coexisted for centuries, together fighting off the Crusaders from Europe and freeing their country from their British colonial masters. It's only in recent years that the Coptic community has felt marginalised, according to prominent Coptic intellectual Malad Hanna.
The Copts as a minority, they are a unique minority because their grassroots are here in Egypt. Therefore, they are proud of being Egyptian. Their discrepancies are very minimal. And they are one of the luckiest communities as minorities. Nevertheless, there are some type of discrimination, for example, in jobs, in senior posts in the government.
The Copts have suffered violence not from the government, but at the hand of Islamic fundamentalists. The Christians see the release of the pornographic material as part of an ongoing Islamic campaign to humiliate them. The Copts are at one with the government, which has curbed fundamentalist activities and placed many fundamentalist leaders in jail.
Their target is to topple the whole regime, and therefore they tried in many ways, by attacking tourists, by attacking the police, by attacking the president himself, by attacking some ministers, by killing 3 or 4 of our thinkers. And of course, the religious subject being a sensitive one, they knew that if they penetrate through that, they will create commotion. And they did.
But the underlying cause of the demonstrations is economic hardship. As a community, the Copts have lost power and wealth. In 1960, before President Nasser's Arab Socialist Revolution, they made up 20% of the population and controlled half of Egypt's wealth. Today, much of the community is economically and politically deprived. Rasmissa's Ga'ad story is typical. She lives in the outer suburbs of Cairo in this 3-room house with her 5 children and sick husband. She struggles to survive on $50 a month. Rasmissa wants the best for her children, but it's unlikely they'll be able to break out of the poverty into which they've been born.
شايفة أولادي مرتاحين وكويسين والعيال يبقوا كويسين معايا 2 متعلمين في المدرسة يتعلموا في المدرسة عايزهم يبقوا حلوين وناجحين.
And the Copts have no vehicle to criticise the government. President Mubarak does not tolerate dissenting views, so the church becomes the only means to vent their frustrations.
They are an expression of the anger which is boiling in the hearts of many people, especially the young, due to unemployment, to the problem of housing, to the fact that they feel they don't have a chance because of there aren't enough projects to keep them busy and for production. Prices are getting higher, the burden of taxation.
Now, there is nobody with any significance in Egypt who is a Copt. Even the ministers, they are second-class ministers. They are irrelevant. You don't go to them, and if you go to them, they will tell you Egypt is a wonderful state and it's excellent. They never are able to make any critic to the government, otherwise they will be depressed.
But it's about time the Egyptian government started to listen. Observers fear if there is no real political and economic change, further unrest is inevitable.
If the parameters of the problem are the same, if the community conditions are the same, the economic conditions are the same, the political system is the same, and it's producing frustration with the Coptic community, the frustration will get repeated. Therefore, I've said this very present situation has produced frustration. And I'm sure within less than 6 months, you will be coming to me again with one further instance.
The church sees it differently. It feels the demonstration sent a powerful enough message for the government to take the necessary steps to ensure the Copts are not humiliated like this again.
And I don't think that this last event will be repeated. I don't think. I think that the government took a very good lesson. And they didn't expect this reaction, this Coptic reaction, until the end. They didn't expect.